Welcome to another interview in our FM Expert series. Today I'm joined by Ross Abbate. Hi Ross, how are you?
Hi, not bad. Yourself?
I'm very well. Ross is joining us from sunny Portugal, and Ross is the CEO of Mace Operate Division. And Ross, you're going to talk to us today about some ideas around how we can progress, how we can develop our FM careers, and share possibly some lessons learned along the way. So I'm going to hand over to you to start us off.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Beth. Yeah, a lot of the times I get asked about how you got to the role that you are. And for me, it always comes back to, people have got positive intentions, but what does it come back to? And I think it comes down to building your network and actually, working with your network. And I don't mean being out there, a lot of people are out there, always trying to meet other people and do that. It's not about that. It's about what can you do for your network. So I started off, as you can imagine, in Australia. I'm an engineer. I fell into this industry. I came out to the UK and somehow got a job in FM, and knew no one. And you started working at BP Sunbury, and I did a decent job, and I had to go back to Australia. And what I found was that going back to Australia, the network within the FM industry is so small.
Yeah.
And actually, the people that I was talking to in Australia could do reference checks to me in the UK, which I thought was really bizarre from the FM network. And sure enough, I got myself a role out there. And what I learned really quickly is your network is so strong in how you share stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also being able to work with the people you meet along the way. So don't forget your network and don't burn your bridges. I mean, that old adage of don't burn your bridges is really important.
Isn't it though in FM? Because
it is. What
comes around goes around.
No, it does. And I've always been a believer that you start to try and, and it's about I wouldn't say favors, but what can you do for your network also? Yeah. Because I find there are some people in our industry that only call you when they need something.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's about connecting the dots. So someone asked me, for me, my biggest skill is not knowing everything. It's about knowing who knows something.
Exactly.
And so if there's a problem somewhere, who can I call to go and get that favor out, or who can I call to do that?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you're building a network. It's about understanding what people's skill sets are and how can they help you, and how can they help other people that you meet around the world. So for me, that is probably been the biggest thing as I've learned. So, you learn all about FM, you learn about how you deliver services on the ground and everything like that. But actually the next level is about it's not about promoting yourself, but how do you use your network to start to move your career? How do you know about these new roles that are coming, and how do you connect to those roles, and how do you know each other, to keep on moving on?
And if somebody's watching this thinking, God, I just wouldn't know where to start in terms of building my network, what would be some sort of tangible tips you give them?
Well, everyone's got colleagues and everyone's got friends, and it's just starting to learn how you can help those colleagues and friends, and how they can help you. We look at, and one of the things we talk about in actually growing our business. So we had this discussion. So back in the group, we have Meet the Board, and we had a number of people within our business come and talk to us. And we talked about growing the business, which is no different to growing yourself.
Yep.
And the question said, well, I'm not a salesperson. I go, you don't have to be a salesperson. This is about you just having a conversation. Now, if you go to a barbecue on a weekend and you're talking to your friends or your colleagues, you just understand what they do and then you clock it. You go, okay, actually, maybe one day I might need that. Yeah. And it's just building that. And we made the comment about, if every person made contact with another person, that's 1,000 more people in our business that we made contact with. And it's not that hard. So you don't have to be, people think I'm an extrovert. I'm actually an introvert. So, if I go to these networking events, I tend to stand in the corner because I hate small chat. I hate, all of that type of stuff.
You know what, Ross, I'm the same. And people would think I'd be the chatty one in the corner. But I unless it's my event that I've run, I've put on, I go quiet as well. So
yeah, I'm the same. And it's not about you being an extrovert or an introvert or being loud. It's more about having a conversation with one or two people. And if that's all you do that evening and you meet one or two people that lunchtime, that's fine. As long as you make real relationships instead of superficial relationships. And I think that's the other key is any relationship I tend to make, and I think that's because I'm an introvert and I don't like butterflying around, is you make true relationships. And therefore, you can help each other because you're actually listening to them. You know, everyone always says 2 ears, 1 mouth, therefore listen twice as much as what you talk.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me with the because at a young age I was told it goes from my ear, bypasses my brain and straight to my mouth. So I've learnt that. It's a skill I've acquired, you know, and tried to do.
But don't you think if you had an introvert listening to this who feels hugely uncomfortable networking and being pushed in those situations, I always say to them the best thing you can do is ask questions and listen.
Yeah.
Because people generally quite like people asking them questions and being interested in them, and you learn so much about people by not thinking what you can add into the conversation, just by sitting back and listening and being engaged in that way. You know. Well,
I think it's more important to listen than to talk, because actually you already know what you know.
Yes.
You're going to these events to actually learn more, so you'll only learn by listening and asking questions. And then all of a sudden you'll strike up a conversation with someone, and then you start to give your own thoughts. And then actually what happens if you're listening and you're giving your thoughts start to get changed also, and you start to learn. And I think it's really important to be doing that.
Yeah. And I suppose if you look at a typical event where people are chatting, and again, what will a typical event look like now and in the future? Will we be doing this? Because I mean, it's interesting with the whole Zoom connection. Some people love it. It really suits them. Some people absolutely hate it. And I think the more all of us do it, we just get a bit more used to it, don't we?
I think the thing with Zoom is, and I think it's something that we've learned, is everyone's got a seat at the table. Your seniority doesn't matter anymore.
Yes.
And so it actually does get people to go forward. But I think, the thing is, and I think it also stops a small chat, because you can, and I see it in events, is people don't look at you. They look at your name and they look at your position. Do you know what I mean? How many times have you seen that? People come up and look at your name and your position. Oh, no value to me, I'm going to move on. And you think, you have no idea if these people, and it's not about adding value. It's about, creating relationships that are actually sustainable. And there are a number of, I've got a number of suppliers that, we go out and talk, and actually those nuggets of conversations just help me frame where we're going, because everyone's got a different view and stuff like that. So for me, I think it's building that network, but building a true network is really important in going ahead, because and everyone talks about it, but these roles and the new role, people don't really get advertised, or if they do get advertised, it's nice to get a tap on the shoulder and go, have you seen this role? This might be suitable for you. Because at least it gives you confidence, and when you go for those roles, you kind of, I can do this. I can absolutely do that.
I like that. I think there's some really important stuff there, and I think it will be encouraging to people to hear that we should be looking at actually, like you say, building real connections, not this sort of superficial stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting with things like LinkedIn and Twitter. I've met a couple of people at face-to-face events who have thought we've met, and we haven't. Yeah. It's just because we all see each other's little faces on LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff. So I think the thing about real connection is really important. Fantastic. Anything else you can think of lessons learned, things that you would kind of have as top tips? Because there's some really good stuff there.
There's a lot of stuff, but I mean, I think that's just the key for it. The one I will always go back is don't burn your bridges. And it doesn't matter. And you might think it's just UK, but I know that, and I'm privileged at the moment that, we operate in a number of areas around the world that actually the network is really small.
Yeah.
And especially, and I'd also say, also do try something different, give yourself the ability to take a challenge. I moved from the UK to Australia and Australia back. I'm Australian, sorry. I've done it 3 times. Yeah. And each time I had to restart my career.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. So the third time though, because of my network again, I ended up going work for Johnson Controls, and that was based on the work I'd done with Johnson Controls previous. And that was 3 years previous. And like I say, that whole network is really important. But I'd also go get out of your comfort zone and go and do stuff, around in different locations, because FM around the world is the same but different, and you'll actually learn different things. And you think you might be the best professional in your area, but even going to another client or another country within Europe, you'll find that it is totally different, and you'll grow the way you do it.
And I also think it's not, I mean, I've not worked in different countries, but the thing I would add to that is FM in different environments. So I went from a law firm to a race course to a, you know, and it's like you say, it's the same but different. And each time you move and you're in a completely different environment or a different country, the skill set you can use, but you need to then grow them, don't you, and learn something else that pushes you to do that. No,
exactly. And similarly, you're building your, you know, and on your CV and all of that, it just looks, it shows you've got a breadth of knowledge. It's like you say, you know, it's 80% of it is probably the same, but it's that 20%, it shows that you're flexible, you're agile, you can adapt your skills, all of that. So for me, those two things is keep your network and actually be brave in your own self and try something different.
And I think you've had experience of working obviously for an outsourced organization, but have you been directly in-house as well?
No, and that's the only thing I've never done, which I wouldn't mind trying, to be fair, working in-house. And, you know, I think that'll have its own challenges in working in-house. I don't know if you've worked in-house.
Yeah, no, I've done both. I started outsourced and I went in-house, and it's very different because, you know, if people working for Mace Operate Division in the UK or overseas, you have to work to a certain standard because that's what you promise your clients will be delivered. When you're in-house, you don't have that knocking at your heel. You don't have that SLA KPI. So I always say on training courses for in-house teams, create your own SLAs and KPIs. Yeah. Maintain your standards, because it's easy, and I fell into the habit of just kind of relaxing things a bit, whereas I'd always been pushed to keep to a certain standard. So it is interesting. It's, I think you at some stage, you never know, see how you go.
But I also think if you're in-house, I think you really got to push your own training and all that too, because when you're outsourced, you know, the company gives you all of it, the tools, whereas when you're in-house, you're not the core business, and therefore you've got to keep your personal development. So it's even more so attending different events and stuff like that.
And professional development, not just training courses, but also
exactly.
Ross, I knew we'd have a good chat. We're on 11 minutes now plus. Okay. So I'm gonna let you go. My lights are flickering here. The weather here isn't as nice as it is for you. So for now, I'm going to say thank you for that. Thanks for sharing that. That was really, really helpful, really useful. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Take care.